This video is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc. If you're looking for cards in the US, look no further as you can use the promo code MTGMudsta to get you 5% off anything on the site. Or if you're in Canada like me, you can use the same promo code at Multizone to get 10% off your orders of singles. If cards aren't what you're looking for, Original Magic Art has playmats, tokens, and sweet art that you can use that same promo code to help you get 5% off your order there. And if you just want to help out the channel, you can always consider becoming a patron for as little as $1 a month and join the generic Goblin Gang. Hey gang, and welcome back. This studio update is brought to you by my sponsorship with Into the AM. They're running a sweet deal of 3 graphic tees for $60, or 3 basic tees like the one I'm wearing for $45. Plus, if you act now and use my affiliate link below, you'll get a further 10% savings. So beyond the sweet deals you see on the screen right now for t-shirts, I've actually been pretty busy. After getting all the cameras and microphones set up, I started to run the wires into my office to try and set things up, and I quickly became aware of the fact that my computer cannot actually run the Elgato capture card that I bought for this very stream room. What this means is I had to pivot and basically build a second setup just for this room, which thanks to the sponsorships like Into the AM, I was able to afford to do. I also became incredibly aware of my inability to actually do any of this stuff, so big thanks to Jim from the Spike Feeders, Logan aka Seraph6, Jake from the Squirrel's Nest, and my good friend MJ for helping me sort these things out, not to mention build this computer. You may have already seen the fruits of this labor since I posted Studio Slam episode 1 onto my channel, but I've got a long way to go. I need to tweak some settings and really refine it to make it look as nice as I want it to, not to mention make it as enjoyable as possible for viewers like you. Hey gang, and welcome back. Today's game was filmed at Wizard's Tower, and it's a bit of an old one since it's at their old location. It has me playing Erebos, keeping a swamp, Myriad Landscape, Trading Post, Rise of the Dark Realms, Worst Fears, and Ghost Quarter. Pat has borrowed my Daretti deck, keeping 2 mountains, Ugin the Spirit Dragon, Buried Ruin, Ancient Tomb, and Clock of Omens. You might remember Skylar from some of my previous games, and he's playing his Ghave deck, keeping Plaguecrafter, Doubling Season, a Johnny Steadfast, Thief of Blood, Godless Shrine, Temple of Plenty, and a Plains. New to the channel is Corbin playing a Saskia deck, keeping a Swamp, a Terminate, Angel of Intervention, Rootbound Crag, Taurian Mauler, Lavalanche, and Terramorphic Expanse. Corbin wins the die roll and starts us off. He draws, plays a Terramorphic Expanse, and sacrifices it to find a basic before passing. Pat plays a mountain, passing. Skylar draws, and plays a Temple of Plenty which comes in tapped and scries 1. I just draw, play a tap Myriad Landscape, and pass. Corbin plays a forest, passing a Pat. Pat draws, and plays an Ancient Tomb. Skylar draws for turn, and plays a Godless Shrine tapped, and passes. I just draw, play a Ghost Quarter, and pass. Corbin plays a Rootbound Crag in his main phase, and casts a Taurian Mauler. He then passes, and during his end step, Pat uses Chaos Warp on the Mauler, taking 2 from the Ancient Tomb. This has Corbin shuffling it in, and flips into a Sunpetal Grove. Pat draws, and plays a mountain, and then casts Daretti, taking 2 from the tomb. He upticks the Walker, discarding a Contagion Engine and Clock of Omens to draw 2, and passes. Skylar plays a Plains, and casts a Plaguecrafter, making Pat sacrifice Daretti, while Corbin and I discard a card. I draw, and play a Swamp. I then pay 2 to sacrifice Myriad Landscape to go and find 2 more swamps, and pass. Corbin draws, and plays a Swamp. He then casts Tristani Discordant, passing. Pat has a mountain for turn, and pays 4 for Nevin Jarl's Disc, losing 2 from the tomb. Skylar draws, and casts a Farseek, going to find a land, and passing while searching. I draw, and cast Erebos for turn, and pass. Corbin plays a Plains, and moving to combat, swings his creatures at Pat for 5, trying to goad him into popping the disc early. Pat plays a Buried Ruin, and then casts Chandra Torch of Defiance, down taking her to deal 4 to Tristani. Once that's done, he passes turn. Skylar draws and casts a Blind Obedience and passes. I cast a Liliana of the Dark Realms in my main phase, aka the Black Land Tax, and uptick her to find a swamp. I then play it and pass to Corbin. Corbin plays a mountain and moves to combat. He swings a token at Chandra and one at Pat. Pat decides to sacrifice the disc to defend himself, and once combat's done, Corbin casts Hepatra, Vizier of Poisons, and then an Angel of Invention. With the Fabricate trigger, he makes 2 servo tokens, and then passes turn. Pat draws, and upticks Chandra for 2 red mana to help cast Ugin the Spirit Dragon, taking another 2 from the Ancient Tomb. He then downticks it by -5 to exile everything but the servo tokens. And once that's resolved, passes turn. Skylar plays a Westbale Abbey, and then casts a Kitchen Finks and gains 2, passing to me. My turn is quick, with a Mind Stone coming into play, followed by a Trading Post. Corbin draws and goes to combat. He swings the servos, now represented by more appropriately colorless tokens, at Ugin for 2 to take him out. After that he passes to Pat. Pat draws and casts a Mirage Mirror. Once he's done that, he passes to Skylar. Skylar draws and plays the Temple of Silence, scrying 1. He casts a Janny Steadfast and upticks it on the Kitchen Finks. Moving to combat, he swings at Corbin, who responds by casting Terminate. This has the Finks dying but then persisting, and Skylar gains 2 as it enters. My turn is quite quick, as I recast Erebos, but with no land drops, pass to Corbin. Corbin draws and plays a Plains. He then casts an Ankle Shanker and moves to combat, swinging everything into Johnny and giving it all First Strike and Death Touch. And after that, Corbin passes. Pat draws and plays a Voltaic Key, and then casts Wheel of Fortune. Everyone then discards their hands and draws 7. Skylar draws and plays a Sunpetal Grove, and then casts Skyshroud Claim for a Murmuring Bosque and a basic forest. He follows up with Song of the Dryads, enchanting Ankle Shanker, and then upticks a Johnny on the Kitchen Finks. Moving to combat, he swings the Finks at me for 3, and I take the hit, and he passes turn. I draw and play a Deserted Temple. I then cast Expedition Map and pass to Corbin. Corbin has a mountain for turn, and casts Sakura Tribe Elder. He then plays Sorin, Solemn Visitor, and upticks him to give his creatures +1/+0 in lifelink. Corbin then casts a Felwar Stone, and then a Mana Gorger Hydra, and goes to combat. He swings at a Johnny with his 2 servos, and this time a Johnny bites the dust, and Corbin passes turn, not gaining life because Erebos is out. Pat draws and plays a mountain. He then casts a Mindslaver and passes to Skylar. Skylar draws and casts an Eidolon of Blossoms. He draws as it enters and follows up with a Dictate of Erebos, drawing as that enters as well. And during his end step, I pay 4 mana and 4 life to draw 2 cards with Erebos' ability. I draw and play a Swamp. I cast Phyrexian Reclamation and pass, and Corbin sacrifices his Elder on my end step to find a basic. Corbin draws and plays a mountain. He casts a Rampant Growth to go and grab another land, and then casts Loyal Subordinate, following up with Saskia, who enters, and he picks Skylar. After that, Corbin upticks Sorin again to give everything +1/+0 in lifelink, and moves to combat, with everyone taking 3 from the Subordinate trigger. Corbin then swings Saskia and the tokens at Pat, and the Mana Gorger Hydra at me. And before moving to damage, I respond by casting Silence the Believers to exile the Hydra. Pat then takes the hit, and Skylar, because of Saskia, takes as much as well, and after that, Corbin passes. Pat draws and plays a mountain. He uses the Ancient Tomb to cast Rings of Brighthearth, losing 2 more. He then activates the Mindslaver, copying the ability to take control of Skylar's turn and then my turn. After that, Pat passes and goes to take Skylar's turn. Skylar, or should I say Pat, draws and plays an Ashnod's Altar. Moving to combat, Skylar is forced to swing both creatures at Soren, and Corbin blocks with Saskia and the Loyal Subordinate, then sacrifices his 2 tokens to the Dictate trigger as creatures die. Skylar then plays out Elspeth, Knight Errant, and upticks her to make a token, which he then sacrifices to the altar to help cast Zulapur Cutthroat. That's then sacrificed to drain everyone for 1, and once that's done, he follows up with a Forgotten Ancient, which is also sacrificed. He then plays a Temple of Malady, and trying to buy some good faith with Skylar, Pat decides to leave what he calls a good card on top. With the board now wiped, Pat passes Skylar's turn to my turn, which Pat also controls. Pat and I draw, and he plays a Cabal Coffers. He then casts Increasing Ambition, going to tutor for a card, and finds Necropotence and casts it. He then activates it enough times to kill me, and with all that done, he passes to Corbin. Corbin draws and ultimates Soren for the emblem. He then casts a Collective Blessing, and recasts Saskia, this time choosing Pat. Moving to combat, he swings Saskia at Pat for 12 to take him out, and Corbin then passes to Skylar. Skylar draws, and upticks Elspeth for a token. He then casts his commander Ghave, and passes to Corbin. Corbin draws, and casts Utter End on Elspeth. Moving to combat, he swings Saskia at Skylar, who makes a token with Ghave and chumps. This triggers the Dictate, killing Saskia, and Corbin then passes turn. Skylar sacrifices a soldier token to Soren's emblem and draws for turn. He then removes 4 counters from Ghave to make 4 Saproling tokens, and then casts a Mycoloth, and as it enters, sacrifices all the tokens to Devour. Corbin draws and plays a Berserker's Onslaught, and passes back to Skylar. Responding to the Soren emblem on his upkeep, Skylar makes a Cleric token with the Westvale Abbey, and sacrifices it. He then makes 8 Saproling tokens thanks to the Mycoloth, and draws. Moving to combat, he swings the Mycoloth at Corbin for 12, and passes. Corbin draws and overloads Amizium Mortars to wipe out tokens on the board. He then recasts Saskia, choosing Skylar obviously, and moves to combat. He swings at Saskia for 6 Double Strike, and this has Skylar actually taking 24 thanks to Saskia's trigger. Once that's done, he passes turn. Skylar makes a Cleric again, and sacrifices it to the Emblem trigger, which has Corbin sacrificing Saskia as a result. Skylar then makes 8 more Saproling tokens, and draws for turn. He then sacrifices some of the saplings to the Ashnod's altar to help cast Avacyn, Angel of Hope. Moving to combat, he swings the Mycoloth again for another 12, and passes to Corbin. Corbin draws, and casts and cycles a Commander's Sphere, drawing another card. He then casts a Crypt Champion, who brings back the Loyal Subordinate, while Skylar returns a Zulapur Cutthroat. Skylar then sacrifices 3 Saprolings to his altar to help wipe Corbin's board and drain him for 3, and seeing himself dead on the backswing, Corbin knows when he's done for and scoops it up. Game review time. Wow, did Skylar recover well at the end there. I think he would have been fine even without the Avacyn since he was making so many tokens per upkeep, and the Soren emblem really didn't slow him down. As for my deck, well, it's been a little while since it was Erebos, but this was one of the games that I really wanted to showcase because it had one of my bucket list items on it, which is being able to take a player out using their own Necropotence. Pat was able to do it against my deck, and I'm really proud of him for doing so. Speaking of Pat, I think he did a great job of piloting my early Daretti deck, and this is before a lot of the fixes and changes that I've done over the years. This game was probably about 3 years old at this point, so a lot of new cards have been put in, but even still, picking up someone's deck having never seen it before and being able to play it pretty well is still a testament to his skill. I'd never really had a chance to play against Corbin, and I haven't really seen him since, but his Saskia deck was certainly scary. He had enough enchantment effects on the board that if Saskia attacked, or even other creatures, after Saskia had come down, there was going to be a lot of damage to 2 of opponents coming very quickly. This video wouldn't be possible without the help from my sponsors, Cool Stuff Inc., Multizone, Original Magic Art, and Alter Sleeves. But it definitely wouldn't be possible without the help from you, the viewers, and my patrons. So I just want to say thank you for watching, and to remember, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.